I think we also have everyone.
Okay, is Joe Vayuzo set up?
He's on the line. Yep.
Okay. And that's probably the echo.
Yeah, I'll mute.
Okay. So, yeah. And yeah, Joe just muted, silenced himself. Okay. Okay. So what time is it? Okay, I got right at 7 o'clock. We'll just give it a minute. Is Dave Dyer here?
I did see his name. Let me.
He's here.
Okay, great.
He's there.
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent. Well, since everyone is here and I have 7 o'clock, why don't we go ahead and get started? Is the video on?
Let me set it to record.
Recording in progress.
Yep, we're recording.
Okay, excellent. Okay, we'll call this meeting of the Branford Planning and Zoning Commission to order. It is Thursday, June 5th, 2025. I have 7 p.m. We'll start by introducing members of the commission and staff, starting with commission member Joe Chadwick. Joe, are you here?
Joe Chadwick is present.
Thank you, Joe. Fred Russo. Fred, are you here?
Fred Russo is present.
Commission member Joe Vayuzo. Joe, are you here?
Joe Vayuzo here.
Thank you, Joe. Commission member Marcy Pelusi. Marcy, you here?
She's here.
Thank you, Marcy. Massimo Malaguri. Massimo, you here?
Massimo's here.
Thank you, Massimo. Sharon Hutner. Sharon, you here?
Sharon Hutner is here.
And Dave Dyer. Dave, you're here?
Dave Dyer is here.
Thanks, Dave. Our staff this evening is our town planner, McKeel Wackers. McKeel, you're here?
Present.
And I don't know, is John joining us this evening?
He is
John
not.
Guskowski? Okay, no John this evening. And our clerk recording secretary, Michelle Martin, is also with us. And in addition, I don't know if Jane is joining us this evening.
She is not.
Okay, so Jane is not joining us. So McKeel, you got to run this, right? So, okay, and I'm Chuck Anders, chair, and I'll ask our secretary, Fred Russo, to read the notice of public hearing.
Legal notice, Town of Branford. The Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Branford, Connecticut hereby gives notice of public hearings to be held on Thursday, June 5th, 2025 at 7 p.m. by remote technology to consider the applications listed below. Information regarding how to participate in the public hearings will be provided on the Commission's meeting agenda that will be posted on the town's website at least 24 hours prior to the meeting. Application 25-4.3, zoning map amendment, IHOD, located at 642 Main Street to construct a building containing 3 apartment units. Attorney Timothy J. Lee, applicant. 642 Main Street, LLC, in care of Costas Sosoulis, owner. Application 25-4.4, special exception to construct a building containing 3 apartment units located at 642 Main Street. Attorney Timothy J. Lee, applicant. 642 Main Street, LLC, in care of Costas Sosoulis, owner. Application 25-4.5, special exception, section 6.8, for grading in a coastal site plan for an in-ground swimming pool located at 28 7th Avenue. Salvatore J. Brancati III, applicant and owner. Application 25-4.6, special exception for grading, section 6.8, to remove and replace timber retaining wall located at 101 Hotchkiss Grove Road, The Ponds Condominium. Joyce Tipping Management Company, applicant. Mark Esposito, Condominium Association president, owner. At said hearings, all persons will have the right to be heard. Copies are on file in the Planning and Zoning Commission's office at the Planning and Zoning Department at 1019 Main Street, Branford, Connecticut, 06405. Written communications may be sent to the above address or to planning and zoning at branford-ct.gov. Branford Planning and Zoning Commission, C. Andres, chairperson.
Thank you, Fred. We'll follow our normal format for public hearings. That is, the applicant will go first, make its presentation, including any comments from consultants. If you need any assistance with screen sharing, our staff can help out with that. After the applicant makes his presentation, we turn it over to the commission staff. We typically hear a summary of a staff report from our town planner here, McKeel, and open up for comments from commissions. At that point, when we're done with that, we open it up for public comment. And in a moment, I'll ask McKeel to explain how you can do that. But we'll ask that you state your name and address for the record, make your comments. After the public portion, we allow the applicant to respond to any of the public comment. There may be additional questions or comments from commission members, and we may or may not close the public hearing. Depends how it goes. Certainly not unusual to continue a public hearing for more than one session. And with that, McKeel, or I think McKeel, can you explain, run through the process for the public to participate or applicants to participate in the public hearing in the Zoom process?
Yes. So it's posted on the agenda, but and I copy and pasted the instructions in the chat. But to go through them quickly is if you wish to speak and you have a computer with a microphone, click raised hand in the participant window. If you're calling in on a phone, press *9 to raise your hand. Dial-in information is listed on the agenda. If you wish to speak, you must provide your name as required under Public Act 22-3. If you don't wish to speak, you may submit comments using the chat feature. We will monitor the chat as best as we can, but speaking is preferred. Viewing only, you are not required to use your real name if you are not to view the meeting. Pseudonym is acceptable if you are not speaking. You will need to use your real name if you're speaking. Reminder, all details are on the agenda, and I posted those instructions in the chat window.
Hello.
Right.
This is my first Zoom meeting, so I don't know if you guys can hear me.
We can hear you, but
we're going to mute you, right? You're
Okay.
right. When it's time for the public to speak, we'll
Okay.
And if you have questions, we'll have you raise your hand.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. And for now, we're just, we'll go in the proper order. So we'd be unmuted when it's time for you to speak. So with that, Chuck Anders, Chair, as McKeel mentioned, we're supposed to say our name whenever we speak because some people are just listening and they may not recognize who the speaker is if they're just listening. So Chuck Anders, Chair, and with that, we'll proceed with our regular agenda. So going through our first public hearing item, we have that first public hearing item on the agenda is Kim McCabe. That's the 38 Howard, Kim McCabe and Charles Watts, 38 Howard Avenue. This is a special exception grading, and that matter has been continued to our next meeting, which is on June 19th. So if you're here for that one, we're not doing anything on that tonight, but that one will proceed on our June 19th meeting, our next meeting, also at 7 p.m. via Zoom. That brings us into items number 2 and 3. That's the same property. The applicant is Timothy Lee, Esquire applicant. The owner, I believe, is 642 Main Street, LLC, care of Costas Souslasas, owner. I probably massacred that. And that's a zoning map amendment, IHOD amendment, and a special exception to construct a building containing 3 apartment units. Is the applicant ready to proceed with that?
Yes.
You can proceed.
And Tim Lee, I made you the co-host if you need to do any screen sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Costas would like to start the presentation just by making some opening remarks, then I'll take over from there.
Thanks, Tim. Thank you, everybody. Good evening. My name is Costas Souslas. I'm a proud Branford resident my whole life. I'm actually a business owner in town too, being 3rd generation owner of the Parthenon Diner, which is a staple in the community, and we're so lucky to be part of this incredible fabric of the community. I just wanted to speak briefly and just to say that I'm very excited to bring this project forward. I think it'll be an incredible addition to the center, to the whole neighborhood with the new building and with also the changes and improvements we're going to make to the existing one, which have been kind of sidetracked because we've been developing this project for so long, but we're finally ready to proceed with that. So there's going to be some really great stuff coming. And I'm excited for our tenants to have access to the public transportation, obviously the green, amazing restaurants, and so much more that the center has to offer. So I just wanted to introduce myself, and I'll pass this over to Tim. Thank you.
Thank you. So as Costas mentioned, he's the owner of the property at 642 Main. 642 Main currently has a two-family house, and over the last number of months, Costas has been interested in developing some apartments in the rear of the building in a new structure. So we had met with prior town staff several months ago to discuss the options to redevelop the property. And after meeting with the prior town staff, we came, based on their recommendation, we decided to submit an application under the IHOD zone, section 5.7 of your regulations. The IHOD zone would allow us to maintain the two-family house and also put 3 additional apartments if the commission were to approve the IHOD zone. Property is also in the Main Street overlay district, which requires us to go before the town revitalization board. So we're currently in front of them. We made a presentation last month. They continued it to June 11th. So we're still in that process. So we are not prepared to make a full presentation of our application to the Planning and Zoning Commission tonight because we don't have approval from the revitalization board. However, we did receive the report from McKeel, and he raised an issue as to the interplay between the IHOD zone and the Main Street overlay zone. So I asked McKeel if I could make a brief presentation to you tonight to kind of get the commission's opinion as to interplay between those two zones. So here's the issue in a nutshell. Under the Main Street overlay zone, the applicant is not allowed to have apartments on the first floor. Under the IHOD zone, there's no such prohibition. Under the plans we developed, it shows that we have apartments on the first floor. So ultimately, the question for the commission is whether the IHOD zone, if it were approved by the commission, would supersede the Main Street overlay zone and allow us to have apartments on the first floor. So McKeel was kind enough to let us come forward tonight to present that issue to the commission. It's our opinion that the incentive housing zone were to be approved by the commission would supersede the Main Street overlay zone, and we would not be prohibited from having apartments on the first floor. And I say that for 2 reasons. One, under the incentive housing zone, the regulation refers to the bulk standards in the underlying zone. Our underlying zone is a BR district. Under the BR district regulations, there's no such prohibition on having apartments or residential dwellings on the ground floor. And secondly, we're kind of stuck, once again, if it gets approved, in the unique situation where we'd have a property in the Main Street overlay zone and also in the IHOD zone. The regulations actually contemplate a property that could be within both the IHOD zone and the Main Street overlay zone. Section 5.7H of the IHOD zone regulations references properties within the IHOD zone and the Main Street overlay zone. And in that regulation, the regulations say that in the event there's a property in both zones, the commission shall apply the town design standards that are identified in the town center design guidelines. It's our position that, and we agree that we're subject to the town center guidelines. That's why we're in front of the revitalization board. But we think based on that language, that the only provision we'd be subject to of the Main Street overlay zone is the design standards in the town center zone, and not the limitation on not having residential apartments on the first floor. So ultimately, we're asking the commission's opinion as to the applicability of those two regulations. If the commission agrees with our position, we would come back next meeting and make a full presentation of the application after we got our approval from the town revitalization board. If the commission decided that they did not agree with our interpretation of the regulations, we have to decide how we wanted to proceed with the application at that point. So in a nutshell, that's what we're in front of you tonight to ask the commission's position on the interplay between the Main Street Overlay District, Section 5.10 of the regulations, and the Incentive Housing Zone, Section 5.7 of the regulations, with regard to the apartments on the first floor.
Chuck Share. Thank you, Mr. Lee. I mean, just right off the bat, I don't know if I'm prepared to render an opinion at this point. I mean, I know that issue was flagged in the staff report, but that said, I've just heard your argument for the first time. I may want to at least have a discussion with the town attorney about that.
Absolutely. I'm not looking to put you on the spot. Mikhail had suggested we continue the meeting to the next, to 2 weeks from now. And we said, well, why don't we at least raise the issue before the commission tonight and then ask to have it continued for 2 weeks. And certainly, I'm happy to have the commission get whatever opinion they would like.
Okay. I think that's fine. And I understand, setting it up and flagging it now, but I mean, personally, I want to look at it a little more fully to see, what it is. But let me just ask: would you intend to present anything else this evening, Mr. Lee, or would that?
No, generally we would have waited until we had Town Center Design Board review before we presented the application. We don't have Town Center Design Board approval yet. We're meeting with them on June 11th. So we were going to defer the balance of our presentation till next month. As a matter of fact, Jim Peretti is the project engineer. We gave him the night off tonight, a rare night off tonight, because we did not really intend to make a full detailed presentation of the application itself.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, one of the issues I have is I mean, you agree that the town center village district applies, but you're saying that the Main Street district, they're both overlays, is superseded. And I think you referenced a regulation that you think basically suggests that. Is that? I know that was your second argument, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that it's in the town center village district, and I'm not aware of a prohibition in the town center village district about having residential uses on the first floor. So the only prohibition against having, that I'm aware of, about having residential uses on the first floor is in the Main Street Overlay District, which clearly states Section 5.10D that residential dwelling units are not allowed on the ground level. So the question would be ultimately if the IHOT zone were to be approved by the commission, would the adoption of the IHOT zone supersede the Main Street Overlay District with regard to some of those standards?
Is the boundaries of the Main Street Overlay District, do they I guess they cover your property, but are you right on the edge of it or
I don't, I mean, I looked at the map and I can't explain exactly where we are.
It extends a few properties further east.
Okay.
So, but to the north, there's no other properties to the north of them that are in the district. So they are on that edge.
Okay. I'm just wondering if you could amend the boundaries. I mean, if you're doing a text change anyway. So, I mean, another way around it. But,
So I thought, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I gave you my thoughts that we want to, look at this a little bit further. But let me turn it on. I'm just one person. First of all, McKeel, did you have any thoughts or comments before we,
Yeah. So in my staff report, I summarized, the intent of the IHOD zone and how this application either meets those requirements or there's any issues. There were a couple of design standards which the town engineer and the fire department raised, and the applicant has submitted responses to those. And I think Jim Preddy will go into the changes that those have been incorporated. But obviously, the bigger issue is, this is a rezoning and a special exception. So the rezoning obviously comes first, taking what is a floating zone and bringing it down to the property so that those regs can be applied. And once you do that, then you can consider the special exception of the residential units. So there's sort of two parts to this application. The first part is a map rezoning, which is more of a legislative process by the commission, and then you have if you approve that, then you have the special exception process, which is more of an administrative process where you have to interpret the regs and see if they comply with the regs and the special exception criteria in Section 9. But again, I think there's a couple items. I have a long list of questions that the commission can answer. But again, I'm recommending at this point that we continue this until June 19th. We'll get the Town Center Village District Review Board information. I will consult with those in Town Hall to clarify how this floating zone and the special exception either constrains or allows this to be considered, and then report back with a revised staff report for June 16th. So at that point, that's my consideration. I do know we've opened a public hearing, and we have public here, so we should probably hear from them in the meantime, if they wish to be.
Check in, sure. Thank you, McKeel. Absolutely. We certainly will allow the public comment. But before we do that, are there other questions, comments from commission members? Looks like we are going to continue this as a public hearing. I don't know if anyone else had any thoughts before we open up to the public. Any commission member have any thoughts or questions at this point?
It's Marcy.
Marcy.
I just want to be clear on what the zones are. So the underlying zone is a BR district and it's got two overlays.
Correct.
The Main Street and
Town Center.
Town Center,
Review.
okay, I get that. But the overlay is considered the underlying zone because it's pre-existed that, and that overlay is the one that's saying it can't have bedrooms because it's part of the Main Street Business District on the first floor. That's the question, so
overlay zones bring additional requirements typically. So you have two overlays, and the Main Street is intended to protect, preserve sort of retail uses on storefronts and activities that are a benefit along Main Street. And then you have the Town Center Village District, which is a design district with guidelines that requires a review by a Town Center Review Board.
So I know this part of the area is kind of near Tyco, right? But a lot
Correct.
there's a lot more residential area than the true Main Street. Do we have any kind of count on how many buildings in the area are residential? How many have first floor? Because I know there's a lot of apartments in that area. How many have first floor apartments with stacked apartments? And did that predate the overlay zone for Main Street? And is that why those are allowable? And I'm just sort of inferring based on what I know from a real estate perspective.
Yeah. So the overlay zone, I think, was implemented 2011. It's in that survey that I did of the zoning code, and it does extend, beyond, the library, where most of those buildings, at least on the north side of Main Street, are residential. Um, there was an intent to provide the Main Street regulations in that area for whatever reason the commission felt it was in the interest of doing so.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that in 2011, there may have been the notion that Main Street and the commercial businesses would be extending that down that way. Because I think we were starting to see some applications like Sastrom's is over there and some other things. And I think we were thinking that Main Street would extend that way. And now sort of the economy's changed and it really isn't turning into that. So, I mean, that's just what I know of the history of the area, if that's helpful to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Chuck
But
Anderson,
that
thanks.
clears it up. Thank you very much for clearing that my questions.
Thanks, Marcy. Any other commission member have any questions or comments before we open up to the public? Hearing none, then let's go ahead and open it up to the public. Does any member of the public wish to comment on this? You understand we are continuing this matter as a public hearing, but I know there were some letters in opposition that were received. And certainly you'll have the right to speak at the next meeting, but you also have the right to speak tonight if any member of the public wishes to comment. So if you can raise your hand or give some indication. Okay.
I think there's Carl Mueller wishes to speak.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. If not aware, we live at 650 Main Street, which is right next door to Costa's building, the Sousalis's. And, you know, we've done a tremendous amount of work here on two very, very old buildings, which ended up to be demoed and reconstructed, and have invested an awful lot of money and have gone through a lot of hoops with the town review board. And I'm posing what's happening here for a number of different reasons, and probably the biggest reason is the safety factor of that lot, being the access of getting in the back of there. Okay, that driveway, I think on Jim Preddy's site plan, shows 11.5 feet to the property line from the corner of the building to the property line. The issue is there's two stoops there entering into that home that stick out probably 36 inches. So if you look at the property line, which he hasn't noted, you only have possibly 8.5 feet at best there. Okay. Can you get a small car in? Absolutely. Can you get a pumper in there? Definitely not. Okay. And if this thing kind of popped up, you know, quickly for me, and if it was up to me, I would have hired a private safety consultant to look at it. I'm trusting that the commission will look deep into this. I know the IHUD thing is pulling like an ace out of a card deck. There's people use it to put apartments where possibly they shouldn't be putting apartments, and there's some towns that can't do anything about it. But what we're dealing here is a very, very narrow parcel of land here that has, I mean, we're literally 3 feet from each sides of the buildings here. Okay. In the event of a fire on any of these buildings, one building is going to catch to another. It's the way they built them I mean, that front building that is 642 Main Street was built in 1880. That's a 150-year-old building. Okay. If you look at that building today, the foundation is falling apart on it. It's in dire need of remodeling. And I'm hoping that the commission does the right thing. It's like putting a new building back there is like putting a carriage attached to a 3-legged horse. Okay. It just doesn't work. And I mean, the town of Branford is a great town. I love being here. I've invested a lot of money here. And I think if we were going to do anything over there, I think we should talk about doing a project where the first house comes down. I mean, that one house is in such, it's incredible. I mean, and there's nothing that's been presented to any of the neighbors here, okay, that anything will change in the front house versus the back house. Okay, and you're putting way too much. And my question is, why? Okay, is it an economical thing? You're squeezing so much behind there. Okay, the tenants in that home right now have no common area. Okay, as it is. Okay, there's cars parked back there. It's just, it's somewhat in dire need of repair. So I just don't think why we're dealing with even contemplating on putting another building back there. There was never a building back there, okay, for any other reason. And I just think it'd be better off to tear that original building down. And if he wants to put 4 or 5 units over there, hey, I'm not opposed to that. Just do the right thing. But to stick a building behind an old dilapidated building today, it just doesn't make much sense. So, that's
Check in to share. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Are there other members of the public that wish to make comments at this time?
I would like to say something. I couldn't raise my hand.
Oh, okay.
My name is Chris Frione. I own 651 Main Street. I'm a pretty active real estate investor in the Branford community. I'm 29 years old. I grew up here, and I know the lot pretty well. And I would say I fully support the build, and I think it would be a great add to the community over there. And yeah, that's all I got to say.
Check in, sure. Thank you, Mr. Frione. Other members of the public, I see McKeel. I see, looks like there's David Cerrito raising his hand. Do you see anyone, McKeel?
I don't see anyone else raising their hand, but
yeah, Mr. Cerrito, David Cerrito seems to be raising his, physically in his picture, right?
Oh, okay.
Right.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Cerrito, you can proceed.
Hi, I'd like to speak on this matter. Excuse me, my name is David Cerrito. I own the property at 18 John Street. I've been here for about 25 years, and I feel there's several issues with the proposed development there. The building I feel it's far too big for the piece of property. That's one thing, and it's just going to be stuffed in there, a lot of congestion. And the front house, as Carl said, is in kind of a state of disrepair. And if I may correct him, there's 3 stoops coming out into the driveway area, not 2. And with the little fence that's there, you're not getting a large truck down there of any type. And then that's I don't know who owns the fence, which property, but the trucks are you're going to have that fence moved. And in order for a truck to go down there, he's going to have to go on the other person's property to get down there. And I just feel like 3 apartments the scope is just too big, and the building itself is too big and I'm opposed to any rezoning or variances given. And as far as the legalities, I don't know. I'm not an expert on this, but I just don't feel a 3-unit building with the cars and with the probably at least 6 people, I would say, in the building. It's just too much for the area, and it's not going to be an asset to the area at all. Thank you.
Check in to share. Thank you, Mr. Cerrito. Are there other members of the public who wish to comment? I see one woman raising her hand. McKeel, you see her? Just labeled iPad, I believe.
Okay, she has to unmute, so I just put the request in.
I think you can unmute yourself, ma'am.
Yep, she's unmuted.
Okay, you're right. I think she needs. There you go.
Thank you. I am Therese DeFelice. I'm representing my dad also, who's in a short-term rehab with knee surgery. And we have the Mediterranean style homes, the matching ones on 15 Barton Court and 15A. And 15 Barton Court is right in back of where this proposed structure will be. And my dad designed 15 and 15A to match. He designed them and he built him himself with 2 construction workers. And as a builder, he feels it's too congested. It would just look like a bullseye surrounded by every house around there. And especially, I agree with Mr. Mueller, who the state of the house in the front is just in a state of disrepair. And I would agree with him to, even my dad said to, that should come down. I babysat in that house when I was 12 years old, and it basically looks the same on the outside. And it just would be a congested nightmare building this overly large structure on this postage stamp with wires coming across it in every direction. And my main concern is the safety aspect of it all. With this tiny driveway and everybody abutted against one another. Every structure is around it on every single side. And it just, the safety aspect in the case of fire is what's worrisome to my dad and I. So I agree with Mr. Cerrito and Mr. Mueller wholeheartedly on this. So that's where we stand.
Back to Chair. Thank you, Ms. DeFelice. Are there other members of the public that wish to comment at this time?
I would like to add one more thing.
Yes, make it quick, please.
Yeah, of course.
You've already commented.
So, like I said, I'm a real estate investor in this town. This is all I do. And the problem with Branford is there's not much new construction going on for smaller multis. It's all big multis going on, 50 units and over. The younger people, they want smaller multis to live in. They don't want to be surrounded by hundreds of units. So what are they going to do? This is really one of the only options that we have in this town to subdivide lots where there already is existing multis and build new ones.
Chuck Henshaw. Thank you, Mr. Frion. Are there other members of the public who, again, if we're trying to keep you to speaking once. Mr. Mueller, have you got something quick you want to add?
Yes, I'd like to just present, because some people aren't aware of going by there because it's so tight, of what the actual back of that yard looks like. And if everybody can see it, they can see it now. This is what we're dealing with. We're having block parties with the tenants in there. As I came home at 10 o'clock last night, okay, and there's loud music and tents back there with the existing tenants, okay. I've spent a fortune on this corner and plan to do the landscaping, and this is what I'm looking out at the back of my rear window, okay, and I just can't imagine it getting any better, okay, by adding more tenants back there. It's just
Mr. Mueller, if you could email that just so we have it for the record.
Yes, I'm going to email a bunch of them to you. Like I said, it's just there's
for the record, that looks like a tent.
Okay, but we're going to try. We don't want to back and forth. So
right,
people have had their chance to comment.
So we're going to build.
That's just crazy. Come on, guys.
We're going to build the building, and we're going to have 3 tents versus 1 tent back there. I mean, it's just, it's not harmonious to the neighborhood. This is a great neighborhood. The neighbors around here are fantastic. Most of the homes are well kept. Okay, it shouldn't be about making money so much as to keeping the town to what it's supposed to be, and what it was. Like I said, these homes were built. That building next door at 642 is a 145-year-old building today. Okay, why anybody would want to invest any money behind it and not redo that building doesn't make any sense to anyone.
Exactly.
Okay. What we want to, Chuck Anders here. Thank you, Mr. Miller. You've spoken twice.
You.
Right. And we are continuing, so you can speak again in the next meeting. Is there anyone who has not spoken, a member of the public who has not spoken, wish to comment at this time? Okay. I don't see anyone. What we're going to do, we are going to continue it, but are there any further comments first by commission members or staff? Mr. Lee, do you have any comments at this time you'd like to make? We are continuing this.
And at this point in time, we're just going to ask the commission to continue the public hearing for a couple of weeks. Obviously, we did not intend to present the site plan tonight. Maybe if we had presented the site plan, it would have addressed some of the questions or concerns that some of the residents have. So we'll look forward to presenting the site plan and going through the details of the application when we see you in a couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lee. And again, if there are questions or comments from fire department or so forth, looking at the access issue, I assume, staff can ask for a review of those things. So,
yep.
Okay, so then we will continue this matter. This is items number 2 and 3. These are continued to our next meeting on June 19th. So thank you, everyone who's.
We'd also like to have you continue the next matter as well.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Both items number 2 and 3. I was referenced. Both the zoning map amendment and the special exception are continued to our next meeting on June 19th. Also, a Zoom meeting starts at 7 p.m. just like this one.
Thank you.
So thank you. Okay, that brings us then to item number 4, which is Salvatore Brancotti, the third applicant owner, 28 7th Avenue. This is special exception 6.8 and coastal site plan for an in-ground swimming pool. Is the applicant ready to present that one?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, this is Joe Wren, professional engineer of Indigo in Old Saybrook. Also on with me are Jay Brancotti. He could probably raise his hand so you could see him. And then his poolscape professional, Michael Martacci, is also on the call if you have any questions for that. If I may, can I share my screen to bring the plan up?
Yeah, I made you the co-host, so you should be able to share.
Thank you. All right, everyone can see my screen now?
Yes, you might want to zoom in a little bit.
Yep. Okay, so this is a site plan that was submitted. The house, the driveway, the back deck, everything is existing. It's all there. The main purpose of these applications is to propose the pool. This was the existing condition survey that had the pool just superimposed on it. And then we also submitted the site plan, which adds more detail. So again, the deck here, the house, the driveway, all of that is existing condition. What is proposed is the patio surround and this 12-foot wide by 20-foot long in-ground pool. There is a safety fence around it as well. There's some minor grading that's necessary for the pool, but very minimal. And there's about 60 to 70 yards of material that would need to come out to excavate for the pool. So hence the need for a coastal site plan as determined by town staff and a special permit. We do have an interesting area here because the marsh, the large marsh off to this side, is controlled by a tide gate valve. So since it's controlled by a tide gate valve, the state jurisdiction line becomes the mean high water versus a coastal jurisdiction line. So that mean high water line is shown here in the upper left corner. And then we dimensioned the closest point of the pool is over 51 feet. And And then we have 121 feet, more or less, dimensioned all the way out to where the marsh is. Both of those items are mentioned in the staff report that I read through. I did not really see any outstanding items or questions in the staff report. It's rather straightforward. There is at least 60 feet of buffer before you get into any of that area off site. The trees, the tree line, brush line in the back is proposing to stay. This area here is currently lawn. It would remain lawn. So we don't see any adverse impacts for coastal resources. And it's just, it's straightforward in-ground pool, kind of a common application. Special exception required for the excavation, as I mentioned earlier. So if you have any questions or if Jay wants to add anything, I'm willing to try to respond as best I can.
Chuck, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Wren. Maybe at this time, assuming your client doesn't want to add anything, we'll turn it over and ask Mr. Wackers to review his staff report with us.
Sure.
Yeah. Can you stop sharing real quick?
Certainly can.
Okay. Yeah. So in my staff report, this was triggered because it's within the coastal area management jurisdiction, and it's also it's almost within 100 feet of the tidal wetlands, but it's not clearly delineated in that area. So it made sense to do the site plan review with the commission. But it is a very standard grading application, and we are recommending just standard conditions we typically provide on these type of projects, that the erosion control measures should be installed prior to commencing, which are shown on the site plan, and then also our standard lighting conditions that we typically do on our as a part of our conditions. So with that, I turn it back over to Chuck.
Chuck Chair. Thank you, Mr. Wackers. Questions, comments from commission members before we open up to the public? Hearing none, let's go ahead. Does any member of the public wish to comment on this application? One more time, does any member of the public wish to comment? Mikkel, do you see anyone?
I do not.
Okay. Well, we can close then the public portion, assuming there's no public comment. Are there any further comments by the applicant, Mr. Wren?
I don't believe so, unless Jay or Michael wish to add anything.
Looks like Jay may have raised his hand. I don't know, Mikhail, if you want to make him a co-host.
He can unmute himself.
Hello?
Yep.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. No, I just wanted to say, this is something that my family was really looking forward to, and I just hope I want to just thank the commission for their consideration for this. That's pretty much it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Branford. Okay, I guess nothing else from the applicant, it looks like. Nothing else from commission member staff. Is that correct? Okay, then we'll close. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Wackers, yes.
I'm just going to pull up the conditions so you can see them.
Yeah, you know what, Mikhail? Absolutely. Well, actually, when we vote on it, once
Okay, later. Yep.
We'll pull it up then. So, okay. So thanks. So we'll close this matter as a public hearing. And thank you, Mr. Wren and the applicant. And
thank you,
Mr. Cotty. So then let's move on then, and we should be able to take this up after the close of the public hearings. So it brings into item number 5, our public hearing, which is Joyce Tipping, a management company, is the applicant. Mark Esposito, the condominium association president owner. This is 101 Hotchkiss Grove Road, the Ponds condominiums. Special exception for grading under section 6.8. It's to remove and replace a retaining wall. Is the applicant ready to proceed on that one?
Yes, I am. Good evening. My name is Marcus Puttock. I'm a civil engineer from Godfrey Hoffman Hodge, representing the applicant. which is the condo association. Thank you for your consideration on this. This application is for an existing condominium, which is fairly aged at this point, and they, at the time of the original construction, a timber retaining wall was constructed along the edge of a wetland and the edge of the driveway for 2 of the units. And if I can share my screen.
You're a co-host now, so you can share.
All right. So this is the area of that site plan, and I'll go to GIS map. This is Hotchkiss Grove Road, the Pond condominium, and we are talking about this area here near Unit 3 and 4, just north of one of the ponds, which make up the ponds. Going back to our site plan, the existing conditions are a timber retaining wall, which is in very poor condition, and a whole series of fairly large white pines above the retaining wall, whose roots are compromising the retaining wall at this point. And we have fears of some failure and some degradation of the wall going forward. The board for this condominium would like to replace this retaining wall and hired me to take a look at it. And upon that review, we felt it was best to, for this first portion of the wall, to grade it out rather than replacing it with another retaining wall, which has a certain, useful life. We felt a 2-to-1 slope from the base of the existing wall at existing grade, sloping up towards the driveway, would allow us to maintain a reasonable shelf at the top of that slope. That slope would be about 3 feet or less. So we're talking a very small slope. And then will be replanted. We do have a landscape plan, which I will get to next. And then for this bottom portion of the retaining wall where it is taller, we would replace it, maintaining the toe of the existing retaining wall, so not going any closer to the wetlands, which are below the retaining wall, but maintaining that same face line of the retaining wall, replacing it with a gabion retaining wall with a maximum height of about 5 feet, and then replacing all of the plantings with new landscape above that retaining wall. Because this is close to a wetland, we did go to the Wetlands Commission and received a positive referral and approval from them for this work. I'll skip over to the landscape plan. We do have a full landscape plan, which was prepared by a landscape architect and will be who will be responsible for maintaining and ensuring over the course of the first couple of years that all of these plants survive and stabilize that slope where there is no retaining wall. That's what we're doing here. And so because it is within the 35 feet and it's directly on top of a wetland, we needed to come to you and we also needed to request that you approve the 3 foot high 2-to-1 slope as opposed to a 3-to-1 slope, which is required. I'm happy to answer any questions or switch to any other images. I do have Google Maps up if you are unsure of where this is and would like to see that.
Chuck Keenest here. Thank you, Mr. Puttock. Maybe this time we'll ask our town planner, Mr. Wackers, to review his staff reports with us.
So in the staff report, I sort of tried to compare the existing retaining wall with the proposed new one. Through that comparison of the height and the length, I find that this retaining wall is actually being reduced from a much longer retaining wall of almost 175 feet down to 95 feet long. So that's about an 80-foot reduction. And then the average height is actually reduced as well by half a foot. And beyond that, it really complies. And again, it's just it borders the wetland. That's what's triggering the grading. Special exception here, and we have our standard conditions of making sure you have your erosion control measures set up and inspected by the zoning enforcement officer, and then some guidance on use of heavy equipment. But otherwise, it's a fairly straightforward application.
Dr. Chair, thank you, Mr. Wackers. Questions, comments from commission members before we open up to the public?
Hi, Chuck. Marcy.
Yes, maybe we can stop the screen sharing. Mr. Buck. Yeah, if you can. Yes, Marcy.
Hi. The screen sharing was hard to see because it was so close, but I just want to be clear. So it's an existing 2-to-1 slope grading down towards the wetlands?
No, there is an existing retaining wall.
I understand
that we are a portion of it we are taking out and creating a 2-to-1 slope.
So you're adding a little slope to reduce the wall length and height.
Right. Rather than building a wall, we feel that because it's only about 3 feet tall, the slope, and we do propose to introduce a significant amount of landscaping to stabilize that slope, that there's very little to no erosion danger over such a small slope.
I'm not worried about the erosion. I'm just trying to understand that the slope is grading towards the wetland and that the street is higher than the wetland, which is an existing condition.
The street is higher than the wetland.
So basically, when the project was constructed, this was the solution and the appropriate distance to wetlands and so on and so forth. Were you required to go to wetlands to do this as well, or just us for the grading?
We have a wetlands approval. Yes, we have gone to wetlands and gotten an approval of this project.
And just because I couldn't see it, could you just give me a quick list of what the plants are that you were proposing?
Sure. We are proposing some eastern redbud, some scarlet oak, and some eastern red cedar, as well as some wetland grasses.
And those are to replace the white pines that are there now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I understand it better. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Dr. Chair, thank you, Marcy. Any other questions, comments from commission members before we open up to the public? Hearing none, then, does any member of the public wish to comment? I see one raised hand. McKeel, do you? Looks like Barbara's iPad. I thought Barbara raised her hand there.
I think it's Joe Vayuso. He's had his hand raised. Or is someone?
Right. Oh, this was her raising her physical hand in the picture.
You need to unmute yourself. I can.
Yes. Barbara's iPad. I think you've been. Here,
I just
you can speak. Right. You just need to unmute yourself.
Okay.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah. I live in Unit 4, and I'm one of the owners affected by the wall. It's right in front of my unit, pretty much. And in the fall, we had a speaker come in. I don't know if it was you, Marcus, that came. And we had a meeting with all the unit owners, and they presented this plan to us. And I think it just has to be done because we experienced flooding in front of Unit 3 and 4 also. And if you just walk back there, you can see where the wall has kind of disintegrated. And, we're just kind of concerned, especially because we're kind of the only ones sitting over here on this side of the complex that's really affected by the wall and the erosion that's has happened, and the timbers are kind of rotting now. It is an older complex, and this is I think has to be done to ensure that we don't have any more flooding and that sort of thing.
Excuse, could you just state your name for the record?
Barbara Klevack?
Barbara Klevack. Thank you, Barbara.
Yeah.
Thank you, Barbara. Any other members of the public wish to comment? Seeing none, Mr. Puddock, do you have any further comments?
I do not at this time.
Great. Any further comments by commission members or staff? Hearing none, then I think we will close this matter as a public hearing, and this is something we can take up in a little bit. Thank you, Mr. Puddock.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
You.
Okay, so then let's cover the public hearing items that I think that we should be able to address, and that would first be item number 4, which is Salvador Branford, the applicant and owner. This is the special exception, the 6.8 and coastal site plan for the in-ground swimming pool. Mikhail, do you think you can call up your proposed findings and conditions that you've sent to us?
Yes. All right, do you see that screen?
It's a blank screen right now. Oh, there it is.
Something's happening.
Yeah.
Can you zoom in a bit, please?
Yeah, it's still loading for some reason. Come on.
And while Mikhail's kind of pulling it up, this seemed to be a fairly routine application. No public comments. So if anyone wanted to comment on it before we made it.
All right, so here's the findings. Subject to compliance and conditions listed below, Commission finds based on testimony, the application materials presented, that the proposed use of the property is consistent with special exception criteria, and the coastal site plan is consistent with the goals and policies of the Coastal Management Area Act, and incorporates the conditions and modifications necessary to mitigate adverse impacts on coastal resources and any future water-dependent activities. And then the 2 conditions. Prior to the start of construction, erosion control measures shall be installed, satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer, and maintained throughout the project. And then we have the lighting conditions, if they install lighting associated with this outdoor pool as a result.
Great. Thank you, Mikhail. Unless anyone has any comments, does someone want to make a motion to approve the application by adopting the proposed findings and the 2 standard conditions in Mikhail's staff report?
Fred Russo will make that motion.
Motion to approve by Fred. Is there a second?
Marcy will second.
The second goes to Marcy. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe Chadwick?
Joe Chadwick is in favor.
Fred Russo?
Fred Russo's in favor.
Joe Vayuso?
Joe Vayuso in favor.
Marcy?
Marcy's in favor.
And the chair is also in favor. So that application is approved. So now we'll move on to item number 5. That's Joyce Tipping, Mark Esposito. That's the 101 Hotchkiss Grove, the Ponds condominium grading and replacing the timber retaining wall. And Nikhil's going to pull up for us the proposed findings and conditions. You want to quickly review those with us, Nikhil?
You can see them?
Yeah. Yes, we can.
Okay. So the findings that subject to compliance with the conditions listed below, the Commission finds based on testimony and application materials presented that proposed grading and earth removal activities of the property is consistent with the special exception criteria. And then 3 conditions, the first being prior to start of erosion control measures, and install erosion control measures to satisfaction of ZEO. Conditions on the time of the grading can occur, and that heavy equipment when they can operate, and then that all site work is any modifications will come back to the Commission. All right,
great. Okay, and thank you, Nikhil. So yeah, you posted those. So unless anyone has some comments, I want to make a motion to approve this application by adopting the finding and the 3 conditions that are in the staff report that Nikhil just displayed and presented to us.
Marcy will make that motion as presented.
Marcia makes that motion to approve by adopting the findings and conditions. Is there a second?
Chadwick seconds.
Second by Joe Chadwick. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe Chadwick.
Joe Chadwick is in favor.
Fred Russo.
Fred Russo's in favor.
Joe Vayuzo.
Joe Vayuso in favor.
Marcy.
Marcy's in favor.
And Chair's also in favor. So that completes our public hearing items. And moving on our agenda for old business, these are basically items that we have public hearings scheduled for. I think they're all scheduled for our next meeting on June 19th. So those, I think there's 1, and then items 2 through 5 are actually all concerning the same property. So those are scheduled for a public hearing at our next meeting. Turning to new business, we have a 3-lot subdivision, and we'll schedule that one for a public hearing. Probably once we get a handle on when our meetings are. And then also we have a site plan modification for 15 Baldwin Drive. It looks like that's a new application. Nikhil, on that one, is that something, it looks like that one just came in. Is that something you need to review, I assume, or is this something?
Yeah, we started review on that. Fire department needs to do some more work on that request, as well as the town engineer raised some questions. So we'll probably be ready to go on the June 19th meeting, even though it's getting pretty busy as an agenda.
Okay. So then we'll defer that one. I think that just came in, and maybe we'll be able to act on the 19th. That brings us then to minutes. I think they were sent out, the minutes from our May 15th meeting. I don't know if people had a chance to review those, and if so, does someone want to make an appropriate motion?
Fred Russo will make that motion.
Fred makes a motion to approve the May 15th minutes. Is there a second?
Chadwick seconds.
Second by Joe Chadwick. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe Chadwick.
Joe Chadwick is in favor.
Fred Russo.
Fred Russo's in favor.
Joe Vayuzo.
Joe Vayuso in favor.
Marcy Calusi. Marcy, you're in favor, right?
Sorry. Yes, I'm in favor. I didn't realize I was muted. Thank you.
Okay. And Chair's also in favor, so those minutes are approved. Correspondence. Any correspondence, Mikhail?
No correspondence this month or this meeting.
Okay. Let's go now to other business. Planners report. What's
Yep.
what do you got for us?
4 items. One is July 3rd is a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and I wanted to figure out if we should hold that meeting given this day before 4th of July, mostly if there's going to be quorum issues, if there's people not going to be able to attend. I don't know if there's anyone that knows specifically whether or not that, if there's a reason to not have it, I guess.
Thanks, Mikhail. What do you think, everyone? I don't know if people have plans for the 4th. It is the eve of the 4th. It is it's first Thursday. I guess it's technically not a holiday, but and the other issue is that we don't have any the only other regular scheduled meeting, if we were to cancel that, would be the second meeting in I mean, we have our meeting next June meeting, June 19th, but after that, there's no meetings for August. And it would be the second meeting in July. So
Dave Dyer will be around.
Dave, you will be around? Okay.
Yeah, I'll be around.
Okay. How about everyone else? Joe, do you know? Or Marcy?
I was just going to propose, since we're off in August anyway, and looks like there's 5 Thursdays in July. Why don't we just push the 2 meetings in July to the 10th and the 24th? I mean, I can make the 3rd, but it just seems like it gives, the town more time to process whatever applications, and it shortens the time that things are shut down before September. I don't know if other people have plans, but I actually might. I'm around.
Yeah.
I know people have plans in July too, so I mean.
Right. Yeah. So, and I don't know if people have days.
I don't have plans. I'm here at the town's behest. Any of the Thursdays in July.
Okay.
It looks like.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I'd have to look. I think right now I have a regional planning commission, but that's usually done. I could make the 10th. I could make the 24th. So what staff wise, do you want more time, Mikhail, or what do you think? I mean,
I think the benefits of maybe moving it is just, even with applicants, they might not be able to show up. And I know that Bill Anaskovich, he wants to do another executive session. He can't do the 3rd already, he said.
Okay.
But he says he's going to try and do it for the 19th in 2 weeks, but that's another matter. I just don't know if we'll be faced with an issue, given that people can't show up.
Okay, well, let's go around. Joe Chadwick, what are your thoughts?
I'm available on the 3rd, but I would hate to have an issue with any controversy come up and have the sort of image that we're trying to, pull this in under the cover of a holiday weekend. I think Marcy's suggestion makes an awful lot of sense. And generally in July, we end up picking an extra meeting up anyway, because just the density of the agendas and the need to cover stuff that would not be covered in August. So I think, in fairness to a sort of public representation, if we did not do it on the eve of a holiday and rearrange the schedule for July, it would make a certain amount of sense.
Thanks, Joe. Fred?
Well, I could be available on the 3rd, but I agree with Joe. The other 2 dates would probably be more convenient. But if you were going to take a head count for those that could make it on the 3rd, I would put my name in that basket. Well, that's not the way you're doing it.
And you can make the 10th and the 24th.
Yes, those are not a problem. The 3rd, it's like celebrating, having a meeting before Christmas. It doesn't seem right, but we have to. We can do it, I guess. I would.
Okay. Joe Vayuzo?
You are unmuted.
Yeah, I can. The way it is, I can make any date, either the 3rd or the 10th. I'm going away on the 11th, but that's a day later, so I can be available either one.
Okay. Marcy?
I'm available the 3rd, the 10th, the 17th, and the 24th, just not the 31st.
Okay. And Sharon?
I'm available the 3rd and the 24th. I'm also going away on the 11th, so the 10th isn't great, but I could probably make a meeting.
Okay. Dave Dwyer, how about the other dates? You indicated you're available the 3rd. How about
I'm available. Yeah.
Okay.
The grandkids will come over and stuff, but I'll be available for the meetings.
Okay.
So whatever all you decide.
Okay, Massimo has an announcement. That's why I skipped you, Massimo.
I figured. That's okay.
Right.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, this will be my last meeting tonight on the Planning and Zoning Board of Commissions. And the reason for that is I am no longer going to be a resident in the town of Branford. I had sold my house, as you guys know, and rented a house in Branford. And now I just moved from that rental to Northford home on a farm. And I'm very happy where I'm living. But, I realized that you can't be a member on the planning and zoning commission or on the planning and zoning board if you don't live in town. So my plans are to move back to this beautiful town of Branford. And I definitely want to say to each and every one of you how much of a pleasure, and I mean this, I really mean this from the bottom of my heart. I've never expected to surround myself with a group of people that are so honest and fair and want to keep the town of Branford healthy and beautiful. I am so honored, and I've learned so much from you guys. You guys are just absolutely wonderful. I didn't expect that when I first came on. My perception to planning and zoning. I've bought and sold properties since I was 16 years old, and appeared in front of planning and zoning boards, and just heard so many things, and my perspective was so wrong, or maybe it is in other towns, but I surrounded myself. This group of people on this commission is so fair, and I wish the public would really understand how genuine that the commissioners on the planning and zoning board of Branford are just the most wonderful people I've met in a long time. And I want to just thank you for being part of this group. And I'm hoping that when I do, my main goal, because I love the town so much, is to move back to Branford and to hopefully come back onto the commission. And because I really enjoyed it, I'm very proud to be part of this group. So I want to thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Massimo, for the flattery. I mean, we'll take it.
Yeah, man, you deserve it.
I agree. I think this is a great board. And it's great. It's encouraging to hear that. There can be pettiness in any type of things, but and it's great to hear your honest comments. And hopefully we can keep your seat warm. So, and we'll flip it too. You've been a great participant. You've made some great comments. You've said what you feel and some honest stuff, and brought a lot of practicality to stuff. I think that's kind of the benefit. I mean, I can be an ether zone sometimes, and people, you see some of the practical stuff, and it's great.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you.
So, getting back then to the dates of the meetings. I
won't be attending that, by the way.
Right. Right. I guess that's what that means. We had sort of an interlude, and but it sounds like maybe the 10th and the 24th makes sense. Sounds like we can all make it, and it may space things out a bit. And that you would just have to call. They'd be special meetings, and we couldn't add to the agenda. That probably shouldn't be a problem. Do you see any issues from the town, from availability of the website? I don't think that should be available, right? BCTV, if we're conflicting with whenever.
We'll let them know. Yep.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Okay. And if there's any issues before you cancel the meeting, just check in and we'll iron it out. But right now, it looks like then we will aim for pushing it up a week, and that was a good suggestion, Marcy. And I think that sort of the public expectation is a decent thing to keep in mind. So,
yep, good. Just also, my second item is a reminder. We have a special meeting on Tuesday at the community center from 6 to 8. John Guskowski, he's going to sort of facilitate and moderate. so I can play the role of participant and be part of the conversation and share my views, I guess. But he'll moderate, and you have the agenda, so you guys can all make it. House Bill 5002 is waiting the governor. I'm sure you've heard about it, or at least a lot of changes I'm going through. I will be, if the governor signs it, I'll put together something for the commission to review, because there's definitely some items that will take effect, not immediately, but that we'll have to sort of plan for and prepare. And then finally is that executive session. Bill Anaskovich has a, I guess, a response on the oil change facility, or he called it a stipulation, so I'm not sure what that means. So he'll present that in executive session, and we'll see what that looks like. I'm going to shoot for the 19th, but it might go until the 10th. It just depends. We have a pretty packed agenda right now for the 19th.
Okay.
I don't know if I want to do that at the end of a long meeting.
That makes sense. I don't know if we put him on at the end of the agenda or at the beginning or probably the end. I don't know. Or just so we could text him before so he can hop in, knows when to hop in. So.
Okay.
Okay. So that's it, Mikhail? That's those 4 items? Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Any other comments from commission members? And again, Massimo, we'll miss you. And it's really have appreciated your input. And hopefully you'll keep your seat warm. So
You are unmuted.
Joe, can I make a comment? Joe Vayuso.
Absolutely, Joe.
Absolutely, Joe. In regards to the executive meeting, possibly, I'm just looking at other options. Maybe we should meet a half hour earlier before the meeting on the 19th. If it has to be on the 19th, maybe that'll help the agenda a little bit. Just a thought. That's all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, we could meet at 6:30 instead of 7 if you want to put it on in the front.
Yeah, we could do that. I can. I'll talk to Bill Anaskovich, see if he thinks that it could be done in a half hour. Obviously, I don't know what the nature of this conversation will look like. But if we want to put ourselves on a 30-minute time constraint, that's fine by me. So.
Thanks, Joe. Anyone else have any comments? Not then. Yes. Henry. Which one? No.
Special meeting, no.
No. The special meeting? No, I don't think so. Thanks, Henry. Anyone else got anything? Okay, then. Yes, Marcy.
I just want to thank Massimo for his service. You know, we're all volunteers here, and I think it gets forgotten sometimes that you know, we don't get paid.
Right.
You're welcome, Marcy. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. Yes, Sharon.
Just ditto to Massimo, and good luck.
Thank you, Sharon.
You're welcome.
Yeah, best of luck with the new house. And it's been great working with you. Via con Dios.
I appreciate you, Joe. Thank you.
Massimo, Fred Russo here. We spoke earlier, so you know what I said. I don't have to say anymore. You know my feelings about you being on the commission and also leaving the commission. So God bless you.
Thank you, Fred. Deeply appreciate it.
You are unmuted.
Joe Vayuso, Massimo, it was a pleasure. Pleasure having conversation with you. Pleasure for all your service. You did a great job. We're going to miss you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
He stops cutting the hair and now he leaves town. I don't know. The world's coming to an end here. So
not yet. I'm still cutting.
Right.
I'm still cutting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, someone want to make a motion to adjourn?
Fred Russo makes that motion.
Motion adjourned by Fred. Is there a second?
Chadwick seconds.
Second by Joe Chadwick. Any further discussion? All in favor. Joe Chadwick.
Joe Chadwick is in favor.
Fred Russo.
Fred Russo's in favor.
Joe Vayuzo,
Joe Vayuso in favor.
Marcy,
Marcy and my dog are in favor. He wants to go
yes.
out.
And the chair is also in favor, and we'll see everyone at our special meeting on Tuesday.
All righty. See you then.
That's everybody.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Good night.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.